We can, it's 7:03 now. We can get started. I think we have enough people to do that. And if other people join in, then, so be it. Let's just see. So, okay. I think I'm just going to start off and explain who I am, and then I don't want to waste too much time on myself because we are here for a conversation, but I definitely want Adonna to lead that and share it. But my name is Brian Christopher, and about a year ago, I started a drawing club online, and it kind of started as a Facebook group, and it grew into something more. And a huge part of it is obviously drawing and getting people back into drawing. I'm a graphic designer, illustrator, and I'm 43. I have kids, house, car payments, and all that stuff. And I kind of along the way lost track of and kind of gave up my love, which is drawing. And I kind of went to a really deep dark place. I had so much regret building in me, and I finally decided I needed to change this, and my goal is to surround myself with like-minded people that might be experiencing the same thing. And I think a huge part of getting out of that is hearing other artists talk not only about their work, but talk about how they create, and also, more importantly, all the hangups and negative mindsets that we all encounter. And it's nobody's immune to this stuff. You could be in art school, you could be 10 years in, you could be 20, you could be a professional artist, and all this stuff is so cyclical. And there's no way. I think it's wrong to try and avoid it. I think the best thing to do is to address it and know that it's going to come back around. And as long as you can recognize some of the self-talk and for what it is, and just kind of move on, I think that's the best thing. And I guess during my first call with Adonna, she brought up the topic of permission came up pretty quickly. And that was a trigger for me. And so we started that dialogue, and then I realized, that would probably be the perfect topic to have this discussion about. And before you guys jumped on, Adonna and I were also talking about how I was trying to think of all the things I've had to ask permission for in my life. And, not just art related, but for everything. And the permission hang up or issue is really an umbrella for so many other issues, like perfectionism and self-doubt, procrastination, fear, failure. I mean, there's so many things. And so I can't I can't wait to have this conversation and hear what Adonna has to say. And then more importantly, I can't wait to hear. I just want to hear what everybody's take on this is. And hi, Gina. How's it going?
Good.
Welcome. And I mean, that's the thing is I think getting out of our heads is vitally important. And the only way to do that is to have a community and to talk. And so I definitely want to hear how everybody else, copes with this and what their past experiences are. And maybe we can all just share ideas on and about how to overcome this. And I also think it's just cathartic, and this is just a form of this is free therapy for everybody.
I was gonna say, this is art therapy right now. We all need it between the pandemic and being artists. Like, a community is so important. I mean, we need to support each other, and there is so much room in the art world. I've never understood that real competition element of the art world, because I'm like, this is a big world out there.
Well, Jackie down there now too, or is she down there, wasn't she?
Oh, we got somebody not muted.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna mute everybody right now. Okay, there's Patricia finished her salad. Yes. And she's got, okay, the wine you can drink on camera. That's fine. Hold on. Okay, so I'm gonna just have everybody muted for the moment. let's see here. Sorry. This is my first time hosting. So let me just mute all upon entry. Okay. Sorry, Adonna, can you please resume?
We all know Zoom protocol now. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna mute. Yeah, I forgot what I was saying, but
I think therapy.
Yeah. I was saying just about a community and how important a community is for each other, especially. I mean, I think it's been extremely evident this last year about, I mean, I think we all might be feeling that lack of community in all senses. And so I'm really feeling a strong pull for creatives to get together and talk about their experiences, not hide it, like be very open about our experiences, because that's kind of how we make it through these times is with the community that has similar experiences. So
Totally.
I feel like this is a needed discussion, especially for me.
Absolutely. So I want to take you back to what you were talking about with like having pivotal moments for your creative practice that were kind of sparked by asking either somebody giving you permission or you giving yourself permission. And I think in the beginning you said you had to rely on somebody else giving you permission.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll start by, and Greg, you might have heard this if you saw me speak at Crystal Bridges, so I apologize for the reminder of my really, I would say this is probably one of my most pivotal experiences with the power of permission. And it was my maybe sixth, seventh year of undergrad. Do the math there. And I was finishing up my last semester of undergrad in art. And I was like super proud because I'm like, oh, I'm going to finish. I'm going to get my degree. And then that realization hit with like, oh, shit. I mean, shoot. No kids, right? I mean,
art students. There's
well, then they know. Then I should be consuming more.
Totally fine.
And I was like, oh no, what the hell am I doing? I can do an assignment like you wouldn't believe. You tell me to animate a sock in illustration class, you got it. You want me to draw a face and profile, you got it. You want me to use primary colors and okay, I got it. Like I can even make jewelry in the jewelry making class. And then I was like, yeah, but all I am is a collaboration of assignments. That's it. I'm not an artist. I'm just this really like I could fit into pretty much any art class and I could make it work, and it was successful. And then I was like, but there was no substance behind it. I was like, when you get out of school, you don't go, okay, what's the assignment? Let me do it. You're like, what am I going to do when I get out there? And so it was this really like big, coming to terms with, oh my God, what am I going to do? And it was David Hadlock was one of my instructors, and it was a bookmaking class. And the last assignment in this, it was the highest illustration class you can get, and you have to, illustrate and write and illustrate your own book. And I had done great in the class, and he just looks at me. He's like, "Yeah, your assignments are great, but that's it." And I was like, "Oh, that's it?" And I kind of got sad, and he's like, "What are you sad about?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I mean," he's like, "You do all the assignments really well, but there's no cohesive, there's just nothing to it." And I was like, "Okay." And then he asked the one question that nobody in those many years of undergrad had asked me. And he looks at me and goes, "Hey, what do you want to draw?" And I was like, "What? Nobody has asked me that. In all the schooling and all the assignments, what do you want to draw?" And I was like, and he's like, "Okay, well, let me tell you something. You're worried about grades?" I'm like, "Yeah, because I have to have straight A's. I have to, And he's like, "Okay, how about this? You're going to get an A. So why don't you just do what you want to do? Draw what you want to draw." And I was like, "What?" And that was the hardest freaking assignment I've ever had, because I was like, I came home and I was like, should have just kept my mouth shut and finished the book. Right. Sorry, my daughter just came home. And I was like, okay. So I went home, didn't sleep, and I was scared to say like what I wanted to do. I was worried I was going to get laughed at. So I thought about it all night, and I was like, well, somebody's got to be brave now. Someone's graduating college. Someone, so I walk into class and I was like, okay, I know what I want to draw. He was like, what? And I'm like, animals. He was like, okay.
Oh, that was easy.
And I was like, what? That's it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to draw animals. So he brought out some animal drawings, animal illustrators, and he's like, just look at this stuff and see what resonates. And I was like, I already know. And so I went home, and I had 2 roommates at the time, and I had them sitting on 2 chairs. And I said, I'm going to draw you guys as animals. And they're like, okay, weirdo, do it. So I drew my 2 roommates as animals. And I called it the tea party. And one was a lion and one was a tiger. So they had human legs and human arms and a tiger head and a lion head. And they were having tea, but in the tea, there was a dolphin jumping from one teacup to the other. And then there was grass growing up around their legs. And then there was things coming out of their hair. And then and so I just kept drawing what I wanted to draw. And it just like spilled out of me, like it'd been waiting behind the floodgates. And it just all started like coming out fast. Like I was like, oh my God, there's so much now. So then I did another drawing, and it was a moose, and it had these antlers that are shaped like this. It had a dog sitting in there because I saw a dog that morning that I wanted to draw. And then it had mushrooms coming out of it because I think moose always live in like a wet climate. And I'm like, God, how do they not get moldy? So then I drew like mushrooms coming off of it. And then it just like started to expand from there. And then I was like, God, when I'm camping, like, it's like there's life everywhere. So I want my drawings to feel like nature. So when you look at something, it's not just a rock in a stream. It's a rock with moss on a stream with a bug, and there's a snake, and there's a lizard. Like there's more and more, and then there's insects, and then there's fish in the stream, and then there's a frog. Like no matter how small the area you were, it's like a microcosm of energy and activity. And I was like, that's what I want to draw. And so this book literally just spilled out of me. And the best part was I forgot the story. So so at the last day, I was like, oh God, I have all these illustrations and there's no story that goes with them. They're just these random drawings. There's like a mountain goat balanced on like, those rock, I forget what they call them when you stack the rocks. Yeah. And then he's got like things bouncing off his horns. And then, and I was like, I need to give it text. So I called it a long walk, and it just said, one day I went for a long walk, ... illustration. And he goes, and then I went home. I was like, it was like the worst writing possible, but it wasn't about that. It was about experiencing like this flood of ideas. And I was like, I kind of like finished that. And I had that all of a sudden I found that spark that I had been waiting for like all of school. And then the most anticlimactic thing happened and I graduated. And I was like, oh, I finally hit something. And then it was like, you're done, go, you're done.
Away with you.
And I was like, oh no. And I went to that same professor and I said, okay, I hit something and now I have to go home. And he's like, apply for the graduate program.
Stay in school as long as possible.
Yeah, I was like, oh, what's a couple more years? Like, great, let's do it. So I took 6 months off, worked a lot, saved up money. I got into the graduate program, and that's when I started the beginning of the work that I'm doing now. That was the very beginning of this almost 20 years later body of work that I've created.
I was gonna say, you just answered one of the questions that I don't think you fully answered during your talk last week, which was, where did the animal-headed figures first come from? Because I hadn't seen them in a lot of your work lately, and so that's pretty fascinating. That was it. Like that was the first piece. I'm also jealous. I'm giving myself, while listening to you, I'm giving myself permission to not have the same story as you, and to not have ever had the epiphany or the spark of a single thing. I'm still a wreck
Oh, no, I'm not saying I got it figured out. Do not.
No. I
This is
know.
any type of like.
No, I know there are many
Yeah,
layers to this whole
yeah.
thing, but I think the point is like, that's how messed up I am. Like, we're having a conversation to try and inspire everybody, and I'm like internally combusting, like, oh shit, man, I wish I had that coming out of undergrad, and I kind of did, but I didn't. So congratulations to
Well,
you.
thank you, and that is the start of a journey that
Yeah.
had many more.
Yeah, I'm sure there's.
And it's also the beginning of where I started to understand the importance of giving myself permission. So,
Yeah.
and that's kind of, and like we talked about, under that umbrella of giving ourselves permission is understanding what self-doubt is, why we procrastinate, why we doubt ourselves, why we question our ideas. That all falls under that same kind of umbrella, what permission actually is. And I'm not, I don't want to put us all in the same category, but from my experience, a lot of the artists I talk to, we tend to be more sensitive, more critical. And that is in a lot of our DNA. And so we're kind of already starting with that. And then we pick something that's so, what is the word? Arbitrary, right? How is something good and how is something bad? That's a creative endeavor, right? So now we're in a field that doesn't even have a right and a wrong. And so like we're floating around in the ether.
Well, and
Like,
it's so personal. Like,
yeah,
it's
it's so
just
personal. Exactly. And so one person looks at it and goes, that's a great project. Another one's like, I don't get it. That's
Yeah.
dumb. Like, why wouldn't you do figurative art? Or why wouldn't you do this? Or why, so we're kind of always in that role of somebody giving us permission, or we taking over and giving ourselves permission to do what we need to do or what we think we need to do.
Totally. Can everybody in the chat box just type like, what is one of the number one biggest negative mindsets that you struggle with on an ongoing basis? I'm gonna start typing a lot because I've got all of them. But let's see if everybody could just write. I mean, there's so many options. There's
Imposter syndrome. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, imposter. That's
I was gonna
absolutely.
say that gave me goosebumps when I saw that first come up, because oh my gosh, so many years I'm like, I'm a hack. Like, I'm not a real artist. This is like, I'm just lucky. It's just luck. It's just luck. Someone's gonna find out that I'm terrible, and oh man, that's I really identify with that. Yeah.
I almost wonder if and maybe if you guys agree to, if you think this is a good idea. I mean, I would like to hear everybody's take on some of this. So I think what we could do is maybe what I'll do is I'll just go down and ask each of you guys to unmute yourself one at a time and just maybe share either a response to what Adonna is, what she just talked about, or share a personal experience. But Greg, would you like to go?
Yes. Am I unmuted?
You are. I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm actually not, I guess, an artist, but I'm a creative. I'm an author of a book on leadership and also have a YouTube channel on personal development and now a podcast on personal development.
You're
And
a creator,
it's really,
so it's the same
yeah,
stuff.
creator. Yeah.
It's all the
Yeah.
same.
But I love artists. And so I've struggled with and still struggle with a lot of self-confidence to put myself out there, but there's still part of me that's holding myself back. It feels like I think there's some lack of worthiness there, a lack of self-confidence. I never had anybody, I've been supported in many ways, but never had somebody. I remember the one thing that struck me when I saw Adonna at Crystal Bridges was when she said her parents kind of pushed her to go towards art because they said, you obviously have a lot of talent. And they said, you need to do this. It's the opposite of a lot of, no one's outright discouraged me, but no one's ever said, I deeply believe in you. It's come from myself. Also, I think I've had a problem with not surrounding myself with other creative people. I feel like I don't have a community. Like I don't belong where I'm at, and so but I think there's some lack of self-confidence there. And so that's kind of holding me back. And so that's one thing that I've dealt with and still deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the, man.
Yeah.
It all, I think everybody, I'm sure when each of us are speaking, it's just going to be like everyone else is going to just be nodding like this. Yep. Yeah, man, there's so much I can relate to pretty much everything you just said. And there was something, yeah, your voice doesn't matter. This is something, this is the, it's the, what's the fixed mindset? It's like, there are so many other people out there that are doing what I want to do or what I'm doing. Why do I matter? And it's like the zero sum, like you just, there's plenty of room for everybody. Everybody's going to do something different. But I get stuck in that thinking, well, there's a million other people doing exactly what I'm doing, but better. So what is the point? And that is, man, if everybody felt that way, nothing, nothing would get, like if everybody acted on that, nothing would get done. There wouldn't be any art, period. So, but thanks for sharing that, Greg.
You're welcome.
That's,
And
and welcome to,
you're vegan, right?
I am, yes.
I'm vegan too now.
Powered by plants. Yes, powered. Where my Powered by Plants
It's
shirt.
been 4 years for me. Yeah.
But you said you're a vegan now?
Yep.
Wow, that's great.
I was transitioning a vegan when we met in Crystal Bridges, but now it's
Wow, that's cool. That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that.
Should have worn my Powered by Plants.
Yeah,
I have.
that's
Anyway,
awesome.
Sorry. On a side note, I remember now that you were vegan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm surprised you remember that. Absolutely, that's cool.
all right. Well, thanks, Greg. I'll mute you and we're gonna move on to, let's see, Patricia, are you wanting to share? Okay, let's see.
Okay, unmuted.
All right.
Yes, well, I didn't know it would be participatory, but that's cool. Because this is what I think a lot about, as probably this group can relate to, obviously. Things turned, so I did get a bachelor's degree a billion years ago, because I think I'm probably older than anyone I've seen here so far. So I came back to art after I found a book in on my daughter's bookcase, The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron. I thought, oh, I'm going to read this. But by that time, this was maybe 5 years ago or so. By that time, it was already 25 years old, the book. Yep. But wow, that hit me like a ton of bricks, because I've been hiding from art the whole time. I come from an immigrant family. In fact, I'm an immigrant, but I immigrated here from South America with my family when I was a year old. So when I think back about my own art history, I felt like, my mother's an artist. Well, she was an artist, a very good one. And they were very encouraging, but especially as immigrants, from my point of view, it was like, well, you'll definitely go to college, all of you kids, get a degree. That's what you do here in the US. So you're good at art, but maybe you should be an architect, those kind of things, which I have zero aptitude for. And so I felt that after the bachelor's, I didn't have mentoring. And Adonna, like you said, sort of at the 11th hour, when you were about to graduate, a professor suddenly asked you, what do you want to draw? That was really not the way art school was, and I was kind of floating around. I was not mature in myself to figure out the path forward. I didn't go to graduate school. Yeah, so anyway, the happy almost ending, I think I still have a few years left, is that now I'm starting to sell work. I came through it via garden design.
Oh, nice.
I studied some horticulture after a career in technology here in the Bay Area. I had to quit that, so I thought, oh, I love gardening. I'm good at that. Studied horticulture. And I went into a landscape design class and I went, wow, this is like being in art school. And I loved it. So I've done 7 years of that, just quit that so I could do full-time art. Because I was doing, after the Julia Cameron experience, I realized I was doing garden design as a cover for working on my art.
Sure, sure.
Right? You know, like, oh, I have to draw again because I need to be good at drawing, you know. So anyway, I'm starting to sell work and get commissions. So that's a happy thing, even though it's on a small scale right now. So.
Oh, it's a success, and celebrate that. It really is.
Yeah,
And
I never thought it would happen. So yeah, and
yeah,
exhibiting little, you know, so yeah.
oh my gosh. Well, I mean, that's amazing how
And
you
I love the work you do. You know, I was floored when I first saw your work, and I think it might have been through YouTube. I just came upon probably through some search because when I was very little, I started drawing animals. And when I was getting my bachelor's, I mean, there's no way. I was very shy. There was no way I was going to start drawing animals and, you know, feeling like I would get some blowback from that. Like it's not cool at that time. So more power to you. Now I draw trees.
Oh, if that speaks to you, then you're doing exactly what you need to be doing.
Yeah. Thanks.
I'm just going to jump in for a second. Patricia, when you were telling the beginning of your story, I thought you were telling my story because the tipping point for me was this. I always show this book, but this Austin Kleon book, and I had this. My stepdad gave this to me when it first came out in 2012. I didn't read it until 2020, and I had the same thing. I was going through. I was like on a downward spiral, and I saw this on my bookshelf, and I read it, and it, like you said, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and it was just like, that's where all the permission came from initially, was from that book, and then I've now been able to, you know, internalize that and give myself permission. So I can totally relate.
I'm thankful to those paths that these books have opened up.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thanks for sharing, Patricia.
You're welcome.
All right.
I'll keep myself here.
CJ, would you like to share something?
Yeah, sure. I guess I did a lot of drawing when I was back in high school and college, beginning of college, freshman year or so. To the bit that I was actually doing little bits for local small businesses here, little ad, cartoon art and stuff for them. But I didn't think I'd ever be able to make a living at it. So I ended up in engineering school. So
Yeah.
4 degrees later or something like that, I ended up being an engineer, and I haven't drawn since 25 years or so. But recently I've had a lot more time, not traveling so much, and I've just picked it up again this last year or so, and trying getting back into it and finding exploring it and trying to improve and trying to work and on it a lot more. I had a lot of what you all say, approaching it both with the self-judgment or feeling like, oh, you know, what's the point of me doing this, or I'm never going to be that good as this guy, or whatnot. Yeah. And so there's just there was a lot of that, and I just kind of worked through some of that and just said, you know, I'm getting to the point where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to try and draw this, you know, and then I try and draw it, and I, you know, and I look at it and I say, okay, maybe I could do this better, and I look at for different ways to improve on it. I've gotten I'm still very critical about a lot of stuff, but I've gotten a little bit better about just going, yeah, you know, draw it. And if I mess it up, try drawing it again, and just kind of going through this process. I do struggle sometimes with thinking that everything that comes out of me has to be completely original, you know, and rather than learning and I don't want to say replicating exactly, but yeah, but learning from, like, I guess still like an artist kind of gave me that idea. I take sax lessons, and one of the things that we're learning about how to be improv with saxophone is starting to listen to those individuals that you really like and learning how to play it like them, and then just taking little bits and little riffs and kind of combining them to make something original. And that kind of overlapped in my mind a little bit of what I'm trying to do when I draw. So some of that's kind of coming together as far as not let myself get in my way of actually just sitting down and putting pencil to paper.
I love the phrase, yeah, get out of your own way. Like we're so we're the biggest obstacle to.
Yeah, we're our
what we
biggest
create.
roadblocks,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
And then the originality, I've kind of totally forgot about that one. That's a great one because I mean, like what you said, I think you know, the only time, first of all, no art is 100% original. Everybody, there's a precedent for everything. Everybody gets ideas from everybody else and the world around them, and you know. So I think the easiest way to remind yourself is like, am I copying one particular artist and that's all, or am I embodying all the, you know, everybody that I admire and bringing them together and putting, like just tweaking it slightly, because I think that's the differentiation there. And then the other point that you made was, you know, you're like, to be critical while you're creating it's like being shackled because it's and what I've heard other mentors say is essentially like, there's always another time to be critical, which is after you've created something. Don't do it at the same time. Do it tomorrow, do it next week. But yeah, like try to separate the two, which easier said than done, but I think that's a good way of looking at it, is like there's always time after to be critical of everything. Just stop.
There's always time to be critical, and we will always find the time to be critical.
Yeah.
We like it or not.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's, again, I'm doing the nod for every word you're saying. All right. Let's see. Jamie, would you like to share with us? Hi.
Hi. So I was just kind of say what happened, or what someone else said is the same thing that resonates with me, is the imposter syndrome, or it's like I think of it as being like not being authentic. And after being in art school, I got my BFA in art and design and studio concentration, but I did it much later. I'm in my 50s, so I did it when I was in my 40s. And coming out of art school, it's like I had every professor's words in my head. Like anytime I would create something, I would think about what they would think of it, or what we're supposed to do. Like, oh, is this art? Is this art? Like, is it something that could sell in a gallery? But I'm trying to take that and have those voices in my head only if they're positive, or if they're critical, it's for a purpose. So if I hear someone's voice in my head when I'm creating something, it's like, oh, actually, I need to push myself with that voice is trying to push me rather than hinder me. So that's something that I'm trying to do. And being in this group with Brian has really helped me to get those juices going again. Because I didn't do any art after art school. I went right into the nonprofits world because I needed a job. Like I hear a lot of you saying, that's what I did too. I was like, oh, well, I can't make money off of art. I need to just get a job to just take care, to survive. And so now I'm not doing that. I'm just working on art.
I'm probably not going to be able to look this up. There was something in one of the Austin Kleon books, which was like, step 1, find a hobby that you love. Step 2, turn it into a career. Step 3, find a new hobby. Because it doesn't always work out to turn that into a career.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome again. Man, it's so unfortunate that we have.
Oh, and I forgot to also say that fear of failure. I will keep working on something and not finish it, because once it's done, it's like you're saying that that's what it is. And so I definitely have a hard time. It really helps if someone just says, it's done, stop working on it. But I'm trying to give myself that like say that to myself, like it's done, stop working on it. It's okay to have, and that goes back to perfectionism, which you were talking about earlier too, Brian. So it's like, it has to be a certain way. Well, maybe it doesn't. It's like, yeah. So that's something I struggle with, but I'm trying to find ways to stop doing that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I also deal with that too. I have so much unfinished work. I also have a problem. Like I have trouble working on anything for, more than a couple of hours. Like if I can't finish it in 2 hours or less, like it's just not going to happen. But I think there are, in my mind, I have two things that I'm always juggling. One is, if I give myself enough time, I could ruin anything. So there's that. But then there's also, who care, like if you stop yourself prematurely, you're never gonna reach you're never gonna evolve, and you're never gonna discover things. I think the biggest thing is discovery, because I feel like the fear kicks in right before you're going to get out of your comfort zone. And that's once you start transitioning out of your comfort zone is when you start maybe making an accident or a mistake, or something happens that is unexpected that your logical brain didn't think of when you were creating whatever you're working on, and it wasn't planned. But those are the best parts of anything that we create. It's all the stuff that didn't work out right, and we adapted to that, and we kind of went with it. And that goes back to CJ and like improv, and there is no, like, it's almost like there is no mistake, because it's just, maybe it was something unintended, but like deal with it and figure out how to offset it, or move on. But oh man, I could definitely relate to that one. So, well, thank you.
With that too, if you think about art as process based, if you take it out of just like final product,
yes,
more in terms of process, so it's harder to fail when you focus on the process than the final product. So that was a big shifting thing for these like monumental works, not like 20 feet plus. Is I'll spend a month rendering a rhinoceros and not like it and erase it. And instead of collapsing in on myself saying I failed, it was a bad drawing, it was a bad composition, I'm like, the process showed me that composition no longer was working. And I'm freeing myself from this idea that I have to stick to a certain plan. And then it was a process I had to go through. I had to see it. I had to look at it. And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have known. So you start to take away some of that fear when you look at it as like, this is just my creative process.
Yep.
And my creative process is sometimes really slow. And then you can get to the final answer that much faster. Or next time you draw it, that process is more streamlined. And then you don't have to look at it as like a failure and a roadblock. You look at it as like, this is just my creative process. This is how I work out problems. I get to this point and it's shit, like this is bad. And then I work through it. But the more you do that, that is repetition. That is, the more you practice that process-based belief versus product, the easier that becomes. And that becomes your habit then. So you take away that.
Man.
And that's a grad school thing that I strongly believe. It's so product driven that we forget the process that we got the product from. And the process is the creativity. The process is our brains, like all of the good stuff that we put in is the process. That's what our value as artists. It's our creative process. The product is great, but it's that process that actually makes us continue to be able to create. So I really think that we focus so on that final product and lose that a lot of the times.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And I wanted to say something about that too. One of the things that I do, a good thing that I hear in my head is, are you working? That's what professors would always ask me after school. Are you working? And I was like, wait, what do they mean? They just mean, are you just working on art? Like, are you just doing it? And they said that just the act of doing it, it's just like what you said. And so, yeah, so that really is a very affirming statement.
It doesn't have to be a masterpiece. I mean, some days my brain's jello and I'm stressed and my daughter's screaming and I'm like, I'm gonna render fur for 3 hours. But I'm working through it and I'm working. It's not involving a creative process at all. It's just the act of working. But what that does is it keeps me in the studio and it keeps me like moving forward. So then when that creative juice hits, then I'm ready to like go and take it that way. But until then, we can't always be creative 24/7.
Right.
So until then, I'm still participating in it. You know, I'm still there. I'm still showing up. So, yeah.
Yay.
So much goodness just came out of that. I also, another quote that comes to mind is an art teacher friend of mine who said, the drawing or painting it's a souvenir of an experience that you had.
Oh,
But that was an interesting
oh my
way.
gosh.
Like that totally diminishes all focus on the final thing. It's just that ticket stub that's in your back pocket from that awesome experience or concert that you went to. And oh man.
And it's a muscle that you flex over and over again.
Yeah.
And the more you do that, the stronger you become at that process.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Jamie.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Gina. Let's see.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm here. And I'm sorry, but my front camera has decided it doesn't want to do anything. So
At least you gave us something cool to look
a
at.
snapshot of my table that had art supplies on it. And now you're seeing a snapshot, actually a live view of my back camera. So you don't see all the stuff on my desk.
I love it.
So
anyway.
So do you have, I'm curious, I know Gina is a friend of mine and we have not talked about this topic, but I'm really curious to hear your take, because not only does it apply to art and life, but also, you know, if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur and you're trying to start something, oh my God, it's like double whammy. And
Yeah.
Gina, I know you have a lot of different things that you juggle, so this has to come up.
So, well, rephrase the question so I know
Well,
exactly how we're directing.
I mean, I think what it would be is like, when have you run into any sort of a roadblock in your life, or, you know, specific maybe to something creative, where somebody else has maybe had to give you permission to move on or to do the thing, or you've had to, you know, look within yourself to find a way to give yourself permission to, whether it's to fail or to try something different, or I mean, there's so many things that whether we're aware of it or not, we're always seeking permission. So I don't know, does that make a little more sense?
Yeah, it
Okay.
does. I mean, other than what you and Mark have heard me complain about. I've got just a little back story so everybody else knows. I'm an art teacher, and 4 years ago, I went back to healthcare and decided I used to be a paramedic. I decided I was going back to healthcare. I wasn't going to teach anymore. And then I had a teaching job drop in my lap, literally at half year. So I ended up just walked into it. And so the first year I was half year, half days. Second year, I was full year, half days. Third year, they asked me to get another degree, or certification, so I could teach something else and make me full-time. I said, sure. So I did that. I did that full time for a year. I was half days business, entrepreneurship, and art. And that's what I taught. And then the next school year, they cut me back to half days so they could hire a full-time business teacher. So I've always done my art part-time on the side, done shows, done the festivals and the shows and juried shows or just festival mall type shows. Always preferred jury shows because I did fine art, drawing portraiture and things like that and jewelry, um, creating jewelry, like artistic jewelry, like a
Yeah.
piece of collage. So my husband and I've talked a lot about it this year, and as absolutely terrifying as it is, I have believed that I am going to give them my notice for next school year, and I am going to do art full time. And
Yes.
I'm still it's taken me a long time, to give myself permission to do that, and, my husband quit his regular job last year, a little over a year ago, and went out contractual. So, and he's actually making about 5 times the money that he made before.
Oh my God.
So, and for those of you who don't know, he's a funeral director and bomber, and he works as a deputy coroner. So he has 14 firms that he takes care of. Our income, mine went down, his went up with the pandemic. The pool didn't open this past summer. I run the city pool here. So over the last year and a half, I've lost $25,000 of my income. So it just is one of those things where I feel I owe it to myself to say, I am going to do this.
Yeah.
And I did a big job with the city last fall, an art job, and it was a godsend, a blessing, because I took that money and bought new equipment. I bought a heat press. I bought a sublimation printer. I've always loved design. I used to teach Illustrator and Photoshop. So all that is just like tons of fun stuff for me. So now, working, I get to do stuff that's just fun. But I've got to make it through the rest of the school year because I won't drop them in the middle of the school year.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those big, humongous leaps of faith. And I'm still struggling with the words coming out of my mouth. I am not going to teach school anymore. I am going to do my art business full time instead of part time like I have for the last 30 years. So it's a big, huge thing.
Well, and it sounds like, I mean, here's a great one, the permission to change. We don't we so easily let our jobs and careers define us, and then we just think that that's what we are and who we are, and there's no way out. So
I
that's
probably would have left last school year, but I had one student that I really honestly, I think I stayed for her because she needed somebody. And she needed that teacher that was going to be there for her. And she's a senior this year and she's going to graduate. She was like emancipated from her parents and all that. And just as much as she loves art, I think mostly I stayed for her, just to make sure she got through it. But I love the kids. I love the people. I love the people I teach with. I just feel the school district did me so poorly that I need to and owe it to myself to do my business full time instead of just when the moment is available.
totally.
So
Well,
I spent the last 3 snow days working on my new website. So
All right.
See how it goes.
Well, thanks, Gina. I appreciate you sharing, and yeah, it's a huge shift, and I'm glad you and your husband gave yourself permission to do that, and um,
Oh, well, he
it's
said, you know,
scary.
yeah, he said, I'll back you with whatever you want to do.
That's
You need to
awesome.
do what you need to do. And I'm like, yeah, but inside of me, I feel like, I like the comfort of that paycheck.
Yeah, yeah,
Then now I just have to get the mind shift of paying myself instead of somebody else paying me.
yep, totally. Well, thank you. We're here
Oh,
for you.
thank you.
All right, and Tabitha,
Hello,
hi. How are you?
I'm good.
Where
I'm
where
doing
are you
great.
joining us from?
Colorado.
Oh, right on. I have a
Yeah,
lot
we're
of
having a
family.
snowstorm tonight too.
Oh, geez. That's right. I think I've been reading about that in all the headlines. Like the whole country is in a
Yeah, under
snowstorm.
under the blanket of white. Yeah.
Oh man, well, thanks for being here.
Yeah, no, I was looking forward to this. I think I went and saw Adonna at one of your shows at Nine West or the
Oh,
West
Vision West.
Gallery here
Vision
in Denver like a couple years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I came and saw your art live, which is makes I love, seeing it in person because it's such a big difference than online. Yeah, well, let's see. I'm a working artist full time. Um, I have been doing art. Well, I won my first art award in second grade. To make a long story short, I won some art awards in high school. I studied. I wanted to study fine art in college, but they said I should do something that was going to make some money. So I chose illustration. So I graduated with a BFA in illustration, but I've always been really into studio arts and fine art and just have always put that on the burner just to make a living. And when I got out of college, I got into faux painting. So everything I've done has always been in the arts, like pet portraits, faux painting, like you name it, I'll paint it just to make money doing something with art. Never really diving into who I was though, then I got married and had 2 kids, and then I was a stay-at-home mom. So here I am at 47 years old, trying to, I make a living at my art, but when it came time for me to figure out what I was going to do with my life again, I'm like, what do I paint? Like, I don't know what to paint. So I took an abstract class because I normally would do like representational work. So I decided I'm going to take an abstract class at the Denver School of the Arts there. And that opened up a whole new door for me because I'm not an abstract person. Like I was like, how, like, that's easy. Like I can do that. Like it's not. Abstract is not easy. So it just made me think in a whole different way. So when I got done with that class, I combined that with what I've been kind of doing my whole life, which developed a new style for me that became very successful for me in the last 3 or 4 years. So yeah, no, I have a studio in Boulder, but now I'm really like I'm still not doing who I am. I feel like that was like just the breaking, like just
Mhm.
getting me into the whole thing. So now I'm taking Renaissance drawing classes and I'm just studying the human figure and really getting into the studio arts like I've always wanted to while I'm trying to do commissions but yeah, so my whole point is I really want to just be painting what I want and putting it out there like Adonna does, like instead of like, because I'm always taking in commissions to make money to pay my rent and I'm just like I almost just want to get another job just so I don't have to make a living off of art because it's so stressful. Like I never know what my income's going to be month to month. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, like something's got to land in my lap. So yeah, it's very stressful making a living as an artist, and but I have faith that it's just getting better and better, and I feel like if I dive into more of who I am, it will be that take me to the next level. of my business. It's just having faith in doing so and knowing that if it truly comes authentically through me, then I know it'll be more successful for me. But right now I'm kind of like in between worlds where I'm half doing what I want to do and half just doing it to pay my rent. Um, if that makes sense. So it's
Totally.
yeah, so it's hard juggling that time. And when you guys were talking about like when I finish a piece, I'll put it up and I'll take it to a show. But if it comes back and it sits in my studio, I cover it over, or I'm manipulating it, or I'm doing something. I don't leave it alone and keep going. I like try to, and I start to doubt the piece. So it's not good enough. And then I try to make it perfect and then I mess it up. And then, so it's like, I'm not moving forward. I'm always like trying to go back and perfect everything. So I'm glad you guys were talking about that earlier because I just need to keep moving forward and put that aside. And every painting I do is hard won or going to be a masterpiece or not everybody's going to like it. So I have to get over that. Yeah, so basically, I don't know, this is great. Like just hearing from other artists that we all have the same kind of self-doubt that we're trying to push through. Yeah, so it's every day is a new, I don't know, it's a new beginning because with art for sure. And it is a process. And I'm learning like what Adonna said, like instead of like, I try to like make the end product so I can sell it and get it out there and mass produce and oh my God, like, but I wasn't diving into the process. And I think that was my problem is I was like bypassing the process to get to the product. So I put it on the shelf or on the wall so it would sell. And I think that's where the authentic part and that it's missing, because like the more I dive in and learn the process, people will be able to feel that and see that through my work.
Yeah.
So it's really just tying into who I am to my work is where I'm at right now.
And that's I was feeling the struggle as you were talking because I was like, this is why, I mean, I do a limited amount of, like I do, my outlet for getting paid for art is also illustration, but it's like doing poster designs. And I tend to work in a different style when I'm doing that because it's digital and I need it to be flexible so that I can receive feedback and not have to undo a bunch of things. So like I'm deliberately working a certain way for efficiency's sake. But a lot of times I'm not like terribly excited about the final product.
Yeah.
Maybe the client is, and that's great. But like personally, I'm just like, this isn't my thing, but I'm making it work. So I can, it's such an it adds so much to the complexity of everything that we're talking about, because the second you're creating for somebody else, it almost throws all of the stuff that we're talking about out the window, because you immediately are going to think about the end product, like, because you have to sell it. So it's really, that part is it's a challenge. I don't have it figured out. I don't know how, like that is really tough.
It is a challenge, and it caused a block, a really big block in me. But last spring, I just couldn't create anything anymore because I was like, and I got a divorce about a year ago. So I've been doing this all on my own. Like I don't have
so
like a spouse
extra
providing
pressure.
my income. Like I'm providing my income. So it's like, it became even more that much of like, oh my gosh, like I just like need to mass produce something somehow. Right. And it totally took the creativity out of it and what an artist is really about. Because it's not the end product. And I think we're more successful if we can still be able to create that space to have that, process in it and not just have a product or a brand or you know, I was doing the business before I was creating the art when I first started this.
Gotcha.
Like I was like trying to make a business without creating the art first.
But I think, I mean, I'm listening to your story. I'm going through a divorce right now, so I get it. Like that transition it's tough. I'm resonating a lot with what you're saying, because I think you're giving yourself a little bit too much of a hard time right now, because what I'm hearing from you is that you're creating artwork and you're selling and you're running a business, and now you're putting on yourself that now you have to be a completely authentic artist. And I think that might be taking away a little bit from what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
So I think you're being, I mean, I don't want to criticize, but I think you're really being hard on yourself now, because you've started a business. This is going to happen for you now, because, and not only that, you're recognizing your roadblock, which is I go back and I overwork, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you something, and it's just from experience. Like, I used to rework artwork all the time. I said, I don't like this drawing. I'm going to rework it. And then what I started to do is I would run out of time and I'd have to create a certain amount of artwork for a show, and I just have to send it. And I hated it. And it made my hair want to fall out. And then it was the first piece to sell.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. And that happened so many times where I was like, oh, I'm getting in my own way.
Yes.
Like, because it didn't mean all these things to me, didn't mean it was less valuable. That was me, again, being overly critical of myself. So sometimes with this creative process, like if you put too much pressure on that, you're missing some of the magic that can just happen when you're producing artwork.
Yeah. No,
because just the idea of producing it is almost a meditation in itself too. You know?
So, it is. No, thank you for saying that, because it is. And I think a lot of the reworking was what was going on within me, is like wasn't perfect and everything has to sell that's going out the door. So that's a good, and yes, just put it out there. Just even though you're pulling your hair out at night, you don't want anybody to see it. Someone's going to like it. Someone's going to, actually, the ones that I don't like, people love.
Oh yeah, some of my stuff that I was like just in my studio and somebody come by and visit, like, oh my gosh, why don't you show this? I'm gonna buy it. I was like, oh, what? I was gonna reuse that paper in like for my daughter's like homework assignment. So I'm super glad you came to the studio, because I was gonna dump it. And it opens your eyes a little bit. And again, that's giving ourselves permission to let go of perfection.
Well, this is what caught me to this talk, was giving myself permission, because that's totally what I'm trying to work on. And that's why I'm giving myself permission to take this Renaissance drawing class and squeeze it in 2 hours every couple of days, and just hone in on these like skills, and being okay that I don't have to be I don't have to, I have to give myself permission to allow it now, so that's why I'm here, just to learn how to do that.
Well, and I think this is I mean, this is how we heal too as people. We share experiences and realize that we're not alone in our experience, and other people are also there, and this is how we get to grow as people.
Yes.
Is that we are on all these different parts of the country, but we all have similar experience and similar feelings, and the way that people heal and grow is because other people are doing that too.
Yes.
And the art world is so big. There is so much room for all of us to be successful and support each other as artists.
Yes. And what's the beauty of it now is I'm really making a lot of friends with artists. Like in my studio space, I have other artists that are working there. We're all inspiring each other, and usually artists work alone, and I love to work alone, so I have to go there early in the morning before everybody else gets there, or else I'm like, okay. So it's kind of nice, the camaraderie, and then I'm getting invited to this, and somebody tells me about this, and that opens new doors for this. So I'm learning to be more social as an artist too, and knowing that supporting other artists is a huge, and there's room for everybody. You're not in competition. Like everybody's art, we're all so different. And I'm really enjoying it. It's the first time in my life, I think I didn't just developing a community of artists has been really just amazing. Because we tend to want to work alone and be alone. We don't want to see people to see what we're doing, and
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice.
I'm just Gina. I don't know if you guys were watching. She was putting a sticky note in
Yeah.
the camera that said, "I don't have to be perfect." There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
And she's and
That's
I don't
true.
in the chat. She's just explaining
I love that. But
that.
we don't. You have to remind yourself every day. Like what? Everybody's failed a million times before they finally came up with that one idea that, you know.
Yeah, our house there are sticky notes all over the place. There are so many. My wife puts positive affirmations. I mean, they're everywhere. They're everywhere because we need to constantly
Yeah.
remind ourselves, to
Yeah.
just stay in the right mindset. Because man, if you let your guard down, it's so easy to get, to stray.
Well, yeah, you get wrapped up in.
Yep.
Well, thanks for sharing, Tabitha, and and Adonna, thanks for, I mean, gosh, yeah, uh, I'm sure you're able to relate to so much of that, and
Oh yeah, this is such a good experience for me. I
yeah.
have been that isolated artist in my studio for 10 years. And the strange part about COVID was everyone's like, "Oh my God, we're so isolated." And I was like, "This is my day." The only difference is, except, dropping off my daughter from school and picking her up every day, she's, 10 feet away in the house. That's literally the only difference. And I wear a mask when I go to the grocery store. Other than that, this is my home. Like this is my garage converted to an art studio. And so that isolation has been such a huge part of my life. And just recently, last year, I made a huge shift from full-time, studio artist to becoming a tattoo artist. And I took up an apprenticeship at a shop here in LA, and I started tattooing. And I had to give myself permission to look at this really great career that I built up and said, okay, it's time to do something new. It's time for a new adventure. And I was being called this direction, not 100% sure why. But once I started my apprenticeship, as a 40-year-old woman going, okay, I'm apprenticing now. I'm cleaning the shop when it's done. I'm taking out the trash. I'm disinfecting, doorknobs, and and then coming home and working, on art for a gallery show. But I loved every minute of it. And the first time I tattooed, it was a thigh. I was so scared, but I thought I won the fucking lottery. I was like, oh my God, it's art and skin, and if you had asked me 20 years ago, I would have been like, you're kidding. There's no way I'm going to be a gallery artist. That's what I want to do, and now I'm still, an artist, but that's what I'm doing part-time. And who knows what's going to happen in a few years, and I got tired of the isolation. I was tired of it.
Yeah.
10 years to be by yourself is hard. And being a single mom is hard. And I need to get out and experience other things too. So.
Yeah, there's so much. Oh man, this is where it just gets real.
Yeah, it's therapy. I'm sorry, but
Yeah. No, this is awesome. I've got my oh, nice, Jade. My son's coloring his tech deck as we speak.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. Are you gonna draw on it too? Like with a Sharpie? All right.
Well, you trust him with Sharpies. You're brave.
Oh gosh.
I hid Sharpies till my daughter was like really old, like 10. Then I finally brought the Sharpies out because I was like, I don't trust her.
Yeah, we have, I mean, there are drawings. There's a mark on every wall.
Okay.
There is. It's ridiculous. I wanted to share one other thing. There was somebody who joined us, Angelina, in the very beginning, but she had to run, and she was one of Adrian's, so a friend of mine and Adonna, who's also a teacher. Her student Angelina was in the call, so she had asked. Her big fear / permission was, will I be able to be a good artist when I don't have a school structure to keep me on track with projects? We all just talked about that. I kind of want to reach back out to her and connect and just maybe if she needs to talk through any of this stuff. But when she left, she said, sorry, I have to go now, but thank you for what you guys have talked about. It's reassuring to see adults and graduates still have fears
Oh
and
yeah.
uncertainties about their art, and it's not only a student issue. And it's like, I'd like to think that we just gifted her a big permission slip, which
Yeah.
is you're allowed to feel all this shit when you graduate, and it's not unique to you, and it's not supposed to stay in school. It is gonna go with you, unfortunately, and it's all it's part of this. It's part of life and being creative. So I thought that was really, really good. I didn't get to talk about any of this stuff in art school when I was there. Everybody, I think it was just a quiet, just everybody assumed everybody was in the right frame of mind. But the art school, and this is a topic for another conversation that Adonna and I have briefly chatted about, but like
We could talk for hours about what grad
art school was
actually is.
yeah, it was so inspiring, but it absolutely screwed me up big time.
Yeah, I suffered a minor nervous breakdown after grad school.
Yeah, it's okay. We're with adults. Yeah, so I mean, I think that goes to show that, like, it's unfortunate that you have to rely on maybe that one teacher that actually says something about this or asks you a question that prompts you to think about all this stuff in a different manner. But I wish it was part of school. I wish this was part of art school, is you're going to deal with this and these are the things we're going to name them now so that you can identify them as they come up, and here are the tools to get past them. But obviously that's, I don't know, maybe some schools do that,
Maybe
but
we can
I haven't
start
heard of
teaching
any.
that class in grad school, like the therapy class where you come in and have a powwow and go like, okay, you've just been told everybody, they're trying to make you little molds of themselves.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about you and how you could take that and then turn it into something that works for you. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's needed, but I don't know if they'd ever do that.
Yeah, it'd be too tricky, I think, I don't know. Well, I guess, we've been, this is pretty awesome. We're at an hour and 45 minutes. Oh my gosh. Thank you guys for hanging out and being part of this. I probably can speak for everybody and say that I definitely got a lot out of this call. Hearing Adonna, especially, hearing from somebody that is a studio artist, dedicated artist, it's like you deal with this stuff just like the rest of us, and there's no out. I mean, there's a way to empower yourself to, again, like move past it and continue moving forward, but there is no way to hide from any of this. So I so appreciate you sharing all the way back to from school until now. And I loved hearing everybody's take on this, because we're all the same. I mean, we're all the same in so many ways, and we're not at the same time. But that's kind of the beauty of this. And I just think keeping this conversation going, whether it's in another Zoom call months from now, whether it's with a completely separate group of people, whether it's in person or on the computer like this, whether it's in a chat room, or I spend a lot of time keeping this conversation alive in my drawing club and with friends, and it's just because I never had any of this conversation, and I can't take it anymore to like keep it in and try to pretend like everything's great when it's not in my head. So I think I just want to encourage everybody to to continue to share with other people like this, because I think this is the only way to really handle it all and deal with it. Is to talk about it. So again, I don't know if Adonna, do you have any parting words or?
Oh, I think I needed this maybe more than everyone else. I mean, because again, the isolation has kind of caught up with me. And you need sometimes to remember that you're not in it alone and that other people share your experience. And this was just kind of a really nice reminder that we all have these similar things and we're all, gonna get through them. And that hearing your stories like made so much sense to me, and been in all those different parts, and it just kind of like helps me process everything that's going on. And yeah, I think this has been a really, really fun talk. And we never stop growing as people and as artists. So we have to check in on ourselves at different points and kind of see where we're at. But
yeah. If anybody wants to share their Instagram handle or a website or whatever, I would, if you guys have your work online or want to share a way to look at it, I'd love to kind of follow up with you guys that way and maybe stay connected. So feel free to drop that into the chat. CJ, I'm looking at you. I really want to see your drawings. I mean, I thought I wanted to be a cartoonist. Calvin and Hobbes was like my thing. Bill Watterson is the most genius person with a paintbrush or with an ink brush. So I don't know. I feel like I feel like there's so many ways to connect and stay connected with you guys. So thanks again, everybody. And until next time, and be well, be safe, be happy.
thank you, everyone.